Oh, it's probably telling me to come here. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to start with attendance. Okay, great. So now we just need to vote for a closed section for the director's evaluation. Can I get a motion to move to closed session?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, great. It looks like we need a roll call vote for this one. So, Jodine.
Trustee Campbell?
Yes.
Trustee Hadley?
Yes.
Trustee Hyman?
Yes.
Trustee Leah's not here. Trustee Sullivan?
Yes.
Trustee Silva?
Yes.
Trustee Trudeau?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, go on to closed session. Talk in an hour, thanks. We do attendance again.
We've taken attendance.
Great, thank you. Next up, we have approval of the consent agenda.
First, approval of the regular.
Oh, approval of the regular agenda, thank you. See, this is why I need a pen. Approval of the regular agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All right, now approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All right. Next up, we have citizen comments. Do we have any citizens' comments? Okay. Moving on to the financial report with Eli.
Okay, so our financial report for this month begins on the page that is marked 23. All right, so the general fund cash balance is just $8.6 million as of March 31st. You can see on the chart that sort of top line that is now between the two lines. So that's between the 2022 levels and the 2021 level after the transfer to the capital fund that occurred since the last meeting. So our tax receipts are continuing about $1.68 million a month. So our receipts through March 31st is $20.2 million, or that's 100.27% of budget. So that'll tick up a little bit more each month as remaining delinquent payments come in. And then we should finish probably around 100.5, 100.6 maybe, somewhere in there, which is a good place to be. Our unassigned fund balance is down after the $2.5 million transfer. So it's now at $7.4 million. That's enough to fund about 4 months of operations. So that's about a third of the, one third of our annual budget, which is a good place to be, 33%. If you look on the next page, so our revenues so far, we've received 76% of our budgeted revenues after 75% of the fiscal year. That's a good place to be. And our expenditures are 67% after 75% of the fiscal year. So year to date, we're at a surplus of about 1.8 million. As I've said, we do expect that to come down before the end of the year. One thing is that we'll see a transfer, which we've got on the agenda later tonight, to cover the rent costs from the miscalculation earlier in the year. And then the one other thing to mention is that at the Finance Committee meeting, which we'll talk about in just a minute, we going to start accounting for the Friends contributions differently. As opposed to it being something that is on the revenue side and something that is on the expense side, it's going to be a fund. So that anytime the Friends choose to give us money, it goes into that fund, and that basically as part of the budget process, we'll ask the board to approve a resolution that says that the library will not expend more from the Friends Fund than the Friends contribute to it on an annual basis, so that it will not overall shrink. But also saying that ideally we're going to be spending the money that the Friends give each year. So that will account for it a little bit differently. It'll make it easier for it to span over fiscal years without it kind of getting disappeared into the general fund. So it makes it a little bit clearer when things are being expended from the Friends. So you can see that change now, that the balance of the Friends Fund is $67,000, and you can see it on Contributions and Memorials page. Then if you'll look at page 27, this is our statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes. Just to point out a couple quick things, you can see here because of this change we made to the Friends, that brings our year-to-date amount much down further to only 24% of what we expected, because we basically have taken the Friends money out of the grants and memorials line and put it into its own fund. So it's an overall small amount of revenue, not a big deal, and you can see there again we're at 76% of expected revenue. Overall personnel costs are at 74%, so just a little bit low, which we'd like to see. And you'll see when we get to the budget later today, Our benefits costs are running better than expected, and taxes a little bit higher than expected. We made adjustments based on those two trends for next year's budget based on that. And then just to touch on the ones that are over, you can see building rental at 150%. We've got that on the agenda tonight to adjust. See library programming running just a little bit ahead, just a tiny bit at 75% of the year. Postage, we've been talking about that. That's running ahead, but it's a very, very small amount of money. Same thing with seminars, conferences, and travel. We've pretty much spent that for this year. And then software licenses is just a little ahead, but in continuing to fall each month. And you can see there at the bottom of the over-under expenditures, that's our 1.8 million current surplus. And we'll see where that lands as we come toward the end of the year. And that is the financial report for this month.
Great. Thank you, Eli. Next up, we have the committee reports. So first is Executive Committee. We talked about the director annual review process, which is underway and will be coming to the next month's public meeting. And it was a short meeting, but I don't remember. I think that was like the main. I feel like we talked about some of the budget stuff that Eli just covered. Okay, so that was the Executive Committee. Next up, Budget and Finance Committee with Aidan.
I will be similarly brief. Tonight, we're going to discuss about the the resolution to amend the 2023-2024 approved budget, as well as the proposed 2024-25 budget, of which we discussed in our meeting, which we will discuss later in this meeting as well.
Great, thank you. And next up, the Facilities Committee.
Yep, we met on April 9th, and we also discussed a few items that we'll also be discussing on tonight's agenda. So we talked about the ongoing negotiations, which seem like have been resolved for air rights over this building as the construction's happening next door to us, and parking spaces and other logistical things with our neighbors. We also had a good conversation about how to approach renewing our lawn and snow contract bids, which will also be on the agenda for tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing where that landed. And we got an update on how the Parkland Plaza facility renovation was going, which I think we'll also get another update tonight. And I'm looking forward to hearing how that's going. But at last we heard, interior completion should be just about done. Network going in May and maybe June for the facility being ready for people to be in it, but I'm sure will update us later. But we kind of went over where all of those things were going at that meeting. So we'll hear more shortly.
Great, thank you, Scott. Next up, we have the library report with Eli again.
Okay, we got a ton for you tonight. So first up for a stat of the month, it has been a very busy month at the library. So we're starting off here with this is our door counter report that I see every morning. And this is yesterday's report. So this is the last 30 days at the library. So you can see there the Easter closure. You can see a couple of the MITAI events. That's the Michigan Taiwanese American Organization. You have drag bingo there. The red line is the downtown library. The blue line is Westgate. One thing that we can see is that the red line and the blue line track each other extremely closely on normal days, like spooky close sometimes. The number of people through the door can be very similar. You can also see that for the branches, that the branches often kind of land on a very similar amount of time. So it makes it easy to kind of see when there's a big event and how that affects the attendance. So you can see there's the MITAI lecture, then drag bingo. The eclipse party was the next day. Then you can see out at Westgate we had the Braille story time, which I think was a bump there. Then we also had the kids art fair jurying a few days later. That was the same day as AADL GameCon. I had over 2,400 people through the door. You can see our Taylor Swift party, record store day, gardening and farm fest, and then just last week AAPS art night and the MITAI musical, which was just this past Saturday. And those all went extremely well and just had a ton of people through the door. So that's what the door count looks like. What actually happened in those 30 days? So just kind of breaking down all of the usage, and this again is just 30 days worth of data. We had 17 ESL meetups. That's a program that we have with Washington Literacy in the schools. And they meet at a couple different locations. I think there's 9 times at Mallett's and 4 times at Westgate and 4 times at Traverwood over that past 30 days. Reservations, this includes any rentals as well as any nonprofits that are using the space or other government entities such as the city or the schools. You can see the blue section is downtown, the green is Mallets Creek, gray is Pittsfield, orange is Traverwood, and red is Westgate. So we had 46 reservations just in the past 30 days. In the past 30 days, we had 223 library events. And you can see almost half of them happened downtown, and then it's very evenly split across the other 4 locations. Each one of them had about 24 or so events over that past 30 days. Then at the bottom, you've got the self-bookings, 674 self-bookings over the past 30 days alone. And you can see there's a fairly equal number at downtown and Mallets. Pittsfield, there are a lot of bookings out there. Pittsfield has 3 bookable rooms. That's actually the most. No other location has 3 bookable rooms, so that certainly feeds in there. Traverwood just has 1, so that's partially why you see that number there. And then Westgate, of course, the 2 rooms that are bookable out there as well. So that's all just self-booking rooms, and that is just a ton of community space use just in the past 30 days. And when you think about our 223 library events, those 223 library events had almost 13,000 attendees in the past 30 days. Out of those attendees, 75% of them were adults, 22% of them were adults, and 3% of them were teens. And that averages out to an average attendance of 58 attendees per event, which we're just delighted by. So this is a very busy library, a very busy time of year, and thanks to everyone who's involved in making all of that happen. Any questions about any of that so far?
So are the story times included in the events?
Yes.
Okay, because I was like, how is this happening that you're having almost 4 events a day?
Actually, it's 7.
Well, no, but at the downtown.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And like 7 at like over 7 a day
Yeah.
across all branches.
Yep, it includes all the regular story times, includes
Okay.
baby play groups. And that's just anything that we have in our brochures,
Sure.
that we have on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell partners when we're talking about it, and they, particularly campus partners who are like, oh, we want to do an event. It's like, well, we do 50 to 70 events a week, and this is very routine for us, and you'll just have to go through the pipeline like everybody else. Okay, any other questions about this?
I have questions.
Please.
For the self-bookings, some of those are events, but some of those might just be like someone wants a room to themselves. Like, I'm curious, one, about like, do we have a sense of what the self-bookings are used for? And do we have a sense of like no-shows? Those are my 2 self-bookings.
No-shows are pretty rare. It's not that it never happens. Sometimes people let us know and we can cross their name out. But this is also just the pre-bookings. This is not same-day use, because same-day use is not captured in the database because it's just written on the paper. So this is mostly people booking a room in advance, and usually it's like a meeting or a Zoom call or a small group. It's rarely something that is open to the public. That's fairly uncommon, except for Free Space and the Muskrat Room at Pittsfield, would tend to be more heavily used because they're better sized for that. But like, there's lots of groups that meet regularly, lots of tutoring, depositions, visitations sometimes like a supervised custody handovers, all kinds of things that happen. So that is just everything that we had nothing to do with. It's just our patrons going to the website and booking the room for themselves. And they can book up to 2 hours in advance. And with a given library card, you can book each room 12 times per year. So that's a lot of bookings if you work it. And then also, if a group has a couple different people that are booking together, you can get a room weekly. So it works out well. So there's a lot of that sort of regular use. There's a bead group that's been meeting forever that just gets together at Westgate Ranch to bead, so all kinds of stuff.
I don't know if you know this, but like, are there a lot of like small businesses or things that they use?
A little,
like,
occasionally.
like-
You'll sometimes see small businesses having staff meetings there. It's mostly educational or social is the predominant use case.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
And my other question
Yes.
was about the count of kids versus adults versus teens, and just how, I guess teens feel like such a nebulous group. Like, sometimes they look like grown-ups, sometimes they look like kids.
Yeah.
Like,
This is self-reported by staff is where these numbers come from. So it's basically staff looking at their event. Someone's always designated to try to get a count at, especially the regular events where everybody's in a room. For the big events, we count the door count as the attendance for the event, especially when they have to walk through the event to get to the rest of the library. We count that. So, but it's mostly like, and sometimes we make an estimate for the bigger events on what the percentage is. But a lot of it is just like we define teen fairly narrowly. So there's, you know, the number of actual teens is relatively small compared to the rest of the community. And also, again, that's 3% of 13,000, so that's several hundred attendees over the course of the month. Cool. Any other questions about this? All right, so just as we talked about, here's the event report. GameCon had just short of 2,500 attendees. Record Store had 2,500 attendees. Gardening and Farm Fest, 2,700 attendees. We figured about 600 for the Taylor Swift album release party. Good thing we moved that one upstairs. And then AAPS Art Night had 505 attendees. That's something we've been doing for a long time. That's great because we get a lot of families in the building who have not necessarily been here otherwise. I love it when people come up and say, where's the multipurpose room? Because that means they have not been here before, and that's just a golden moment. So here's a photo of some of our staff who worked the Taylor Swift event. All right, upcoming events. We've got ACME, the Ann Arbor Creativity and Making Expo, formerly known as the Ann Arbor Mini Maker Fair. That's coming up Sunday, May 5th at the Downtown Library. We've got the Kylin Festival. That's a partnership with Qian Wan, and he's been just an incredible partner to work with. He's doing so many amazing things. We're just always like all in on the stuff that he wants to do here. So that comes up in May and June. And then the Friends Spring Bag Sale, along with the closing of the downtown lobby shop, that's Saturday and Sunday, May 18th and 19th. So we're all very excited about those. AADL is observing the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month this May with a number of in-person events as well as archived events, videos, and more. And AADL is excited to be a key partner in the Kylin Festival, a multi-day inaugural arts festival celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander arts and culture, which includes film screenings, concerts, panel discussions, lectures, and presentations in May and June. So stay tuned for that. A lot of cool things coming with that. At the request of the family of John Sinclair, AADL live streamed the funeral, his funeral, which was happening at MoCAD. They asked us if we could make it available for people who were here in town who maybe couldn't make it down to Detroit. So we live streamed that in the lobby, and we were very happy to be able to do that for John Sinclair's family. The AADL Archives has an extensive collection of materials related to John Sinclair and the famous John Sinclair Freedom Rally in 1971. You can look at all of that at aadl.org/freeing John Sinclair. Big project that we did for the 40th anniversary of the rally back in 2011. All right, there's another AADL in the community. A2 STEAM first graders led a project examining the hidden history of their school. They visited an archives exhibit at AADL, then took part in a panel discussion with community members involved in the creation of A2 STEAM or that attended the former Northside Elementary. This work culminated in the production of historical markers that the students produced that are currently on display at Traverwood. They're adorable, and this was a very cute video that was produced with a lot of the students in town, and our staffer, Colin Simpson, our kids and family lead, who went over there to accept the plaques and have them hung up at the Traverwood Library. So it was a great project, and we are very happy to be involved in that. We also have partnered with the Washtenaw Intermediate School District, WISD or WISD, for a Braille-enhanced story walk on the accessible paved walkways that they have at High Point. The exhibit features Lori Degman's book, Just Read, in both Braille and print for young readers. That exhibit opened on April 1st and actually concludes tomorrow. And here's a great post, I think from Facebook, when the author came to see the story walk out at High Point. So it's a very cool thing that we were able to help and collaborate with, and thanks to Katie Munkovich from our outreach team who did a lot of work to make that happen. All right, here's another cool event that's coming up. AADL is partnering with the Housing Bureau for Seniors, Detroit Area Agency on Aging, the Ann Arbor Area Community Foundation Chart, the Commission on Aging, the Jewish Family Services, Ann Arbor Senior Center, and Ann Arbor Theater Consulting Company Limelight to present Solo Acts, a solo aging symposium and theatrical performance. This event is part performance and part conversation about aging alone in Ann Arbor. It's coming up May 10th, 10 a.m. at Westgate Branch. This is a particularly exciting opportunity because this is one of our strategic initiatives to focus on the aging population and try to make sure that we're offering a wide set of opportunities and discussions for them. All right, now we got to catch you up on Ann Arbor 200. There have been 30 projects released since the last time we met, so this is going to be a whirlwind. Number 22, AADL talks to Ann Arbor historian Bev Willis, who has worked with the African American Cultural Historical Museum, City's Historic District Commission, and the Washtenaw County Historical Society's Museum on Main Street. Number 23 was Dance, Music, Art, and Community, 50 years of the Dance for Mother Earth powwow. AADL has created a physical exhibit that will be up through June 14th, as well as an online version of that exhibit celebrating photos over the 50 years of the Dance for Mother Earth powwow. Number 24 was the Chequamagons, a talented group of students who laid the groundwork for UM bands and orchestras and were shining stars in Ann Arbor's music history. Number 25, AADL talked to Paul Collenberg and Zach Johnson, who were managers at Tower Records in Ann Arbor back in the day. That was part of the zine. We'll get to that in just a minute. Number 26, AADL talks to Margaret Parker, who'd been working as an artist for 7 decades. At one point was director of the Art Center, also was, I believe, chair of the Public Art Commission. Number 27 was 19-year-old Ann Arbor teen Marty Sin took 7 hours and 39 minutes to complete a 15-mile marathon swim in frigid Lake Ontario, earning $4,000 in international attention, our own sort of channel crossing. Number 28, AADL talks to John Metzger, third-generation owner of Metzger's Restaurant. Number 29, AADL talks to Susan Weinberg, former president of the Washtenaw County Historical Society, member of the Historic District Commission, and local history institution. And Susan's been a great partner of ours for many years. Number 30, Ann Arbor's Ivory Palace Rollerdrome, a big part of the Ann Arbor social scene from 1938 to 1951. It stood where Vets Park is now. So there's been a long history of skating on that location. Number 31, we talked to Steve Bergman, who is the founder of School Kids Records in Ann Arbor. Number 32, The Road Not Built, about Ann Arbor's Packard Beeks Bypass. This was something that was used as a pretense to evict and pressure many black families out of their homes in the old neighborhood. And this is something, and then it was never built. So this was a kind of seen as like during the age of urban renewal, and it's a very unfortunate story and something we covered a lot. There's also some reference to that in There Went the Neighborhood. So that was number 32. Number 33, AADL talks to Sharon McGrill, who spent several years as a new media liaison at Borders before starting her own company, the Betty Brigade. Number 34, we talked to Jay Platt, who's the owner of the iconic West Side Bookshop. Number 35, we talked to Bill Ayers, former director of Ann Arbor's Experimental Children's Community School, education secretary of the SDS, and co-founder of the Weather Underground. That was a conversation that Amy and Andrew had with Bill Ayers just a few weeks ago. Number 36, the Michigan Memorial Phoenix Project to be a living, continuous memorial, a unique endeavor dedicated to exploring ways that the atom could aid mankind rather than destroy it. The Phoenix Project wound up with a research reactor that was located on North Campus for many years. I did get to see it when I was an undergrad, when you could look right at the nuclear reactor in the bottom of the pool. Number 37, AADL talks to local historian Grace Shackman, educator, former Washtenaw County Commissioner, and well-known historian. Number 38, Ann Arbor's Annie Oakley, our city's first policewoman, Anna N. Schweitzer, who joined the police department as their first female employee in November of 1940. Number 39, we talked to Peter Yates, professional photographer who started as a street photographer and went on to work for national magazines. Number 40, we talked with Earl Jackson about his time growing up in Ypsi and Ann Arbor, his work at Borders Books and Music, and his career in the visual arts. Number 41 is an essay about poems and other miscellany in the Signal of Liberty. Ann Arbor District Library is the online home of the Signal of Liberty abolitionist paper. It was published in Ann Arbor for many years. Had more than 1,200 subscribers. Number 42, we talked to Mark and Jeff Terrace, the brothers and founders of PJ's Used Records. Number 43 is Scoring the Archive. This is the second time we've done this project. UM students in a composition class led by Garrett Schumann have created original electronic compositions designed to accompany photographs selected from the archives. You can look at that online, and you can also see the images up on the big screen in the lobby. Number 44, Virginia Hendrickson Irvin was a well-known miniature portraitist who moved to Ann Arbor when she was 6, internationally renowned for her tiny miniature paintings. And number 45, we talked to Robin and Jamie Agnew, who are owners of Aunt Agatha's Mystery Bookstore. Number 46 is what you have in front of you. Produced for Record Store Day, we produced a zine to commemorate music and record stores from Ann Arbor past, and there's excerpts from several of those interviews with the old record store owners in there, and that was available for pickup on Record Store Day and still available at many locations around town. Number 47, The Old Wildcat Times, Frauds, Fake Towns, and Counterfeits in the Era of Free Banking. Wonderful essay about frauds and fakes from the early days. Number 48, we talked to Fran Bluen, who was the director of the Bentley for many years. Number 49 is an essay, A Tailored Fit, The Life of Max Opperly, Ann Arbor's celebrated clothier, tailor, and educator, member of the Custom Tailor and Designers Association Hall of Fame. Number 50, this just released. It's a film produced by Peter Sparling, featuring Martin Contreras and Keith Orr, the founders of Outbar. It's called Elegy for the Outbar. It is a beautiful and very sweet little film. I'd encourage you all to check that out. And number 51, we talked to Ken Burns, who grew up in Ann Arbor in the 1960s. We just spoke with him just a few weeks ago. It's a wonderful conversation. Talks a lot about what all of his haunts were, the places he liked to go, places he hung out, what his perception was of Ann Arbor as a child of academics in the middle of the very turbulent period of Ann Arbor's history. That catches you up to what we've done so far. And now that is at number 50, 25% of the way through the Ann Arbor project. All right. So our staff spotlight this month is Jackie Milosh, who's a production tech here. She's been here for 1 year at AADL. What do you wish people worked with knew about you? Before I came to AADL, I was narrating audiobooks from home. While I greatly enjoyed that work and still do, and she is amazing at it. My sessions in the booth began to feel rather isolating after a while. I found myself really missing working with others. Having now been a part of the productions team for about a year, I can confidently say applying for this position was one of the best decisions I ever made. Special thanks to my sister, Emily Murphy, who is a librarian here, for encouraging me to do so. While I get to work on a lot of really cool projects and events, not to mention all the super fun AV equipment, getting to work with AADL's lovely staff on a regular basis is my favorite part of this job. I consider myself incredibly lucky to be here. Jackie, thank you for being a part of our staff. Our mention of the month, here's just from Instagram, from Gabriella Maria 116, Portable Adventures. And you can see those stamps on the binding over there, full of books. And our compliment of the month. Thank you so much for having Norbert Vance from EMU speak about the eclipse on April 1st. His lecture was engaging and educational. His enthusiasm was contagious, and he convinced me to travel to experience totality, which was amazing. Thank you for providing timely and interesting lectures. What I like most about this is encourage someone to go away for the eclipse. We actually had a really great day at the eclipse. We had a wonderful turnout, and everything went very smoothly, and I'm so glad we didn't try to distribute glasses. All right, complaint of the month. I visited the Westgate branch of the library yesterday and inquired about the use of the study cubes. I was informed that they were first come, first use. The next day I arrived at the library around 9:50 a.m., 10 minutes before the posted opening time. I was surprised to see that the library was full of people and all the study cubes were already taken before the library's posted opening hours. I inquired at the desk what time the library actually opens. I was informed that while the library does not technically open until 10, because of Sweetwater's opening earlier, they allow people to start entering the library sometime around 8 a.m. This is unfair to those who do not know about the informal hours of the library. The posted hours need to be enforced, the posted hours need to change, or the rooms need to be by reservation to make this fair to all members of the community. So I responded to this patron, and this is something where there's really no way to do this perfectly well, because the fact is that we're not going to refuse people to use the rest of the library. Sweetwater's gets to set their own hours. And basically what happens is that once we have staff in the building, we drop the rope. We don't always know when that's going to be because someone could be sick, someone could get stuck in traffic. We do not commit to library service hours until 10 a.m. But as soon as we have staff in the building, we'll drop the rope separating the library side and Sweetwater side so people can come into the rest of the building. One thing that I think maybe this patron didn't know is that you can reserve rooms. You can reserve meeting rooms A and B, made sure that they knew about that. But they are informal operating hours, and it's something that we decided to be comfortable with rather than denying people access to the library when it was really very possible for us to provide it to them. So there's really no perfect way to do this, but we've been doing this for a long time. We've reached a happy medium here, a balance between safety and security, as well as being able to maximize access to the building and provide library service during our set hours. So really, library service hours begin at 10 a.m., but as soon as we have staff in the building, we're going to allow people to enter this space. Any questions about that? Okay, that's my report for this month. Thank you all very much.
Great. Thank you, Eli. Next up, we have the Parkland Plaza Facility Upgrade Update with Len.
I'm going to disappoint Scott because
Oh, no.
we're behind schedule. No, I'm
Yeah.
kidding. Since we met with the facilities committee, we are behind schedule about a week or two. So we made the decision. We're really close on a lot of finishes. Carpet was supposed to go in May 8th, but there's a lot of dirty work still left to do. So we decided to move that back a week or two. We are on schedule with the civil site work, which started today. Windows should be cut in next week to allow all that light into the building. So we're still pushing towards June 1st, I'm sorry. But we did push back the finishes because we want the space to be clean. The office furniture and the fixed offices will arrive and be installed last week of May. And the cubicles for the open areas, which you'll see in a little bit, is also right about the same schedule. So furniture, shelving for the friend space, all the first part of June. So about a week or two later than I told you a couple weeks ago. So, any questions before we go through some slides? Okay. So this is the finished wall that separates the office space from the warehouse. That is complete. We'll probably do something with that, whether that be a mural or some of our art pieces, or it's just a tapestry that we can do whatever we want with.
We're actually going to be, there's a new mural underway for the fence along Library Lane. And the current Black Lives Matter mural will be relocated to that space between the two lines of windows for permanent exhibit inside the warehouse volume.
There we go. All right. Next slide. This is the mezzanine for the geothermal pumps that house all of the equipment up top. Below it, we'll have some space for whatever we'd like. To the right of it is the domestic outdoor air system that is basically the energy wheel. So that mixes the outdoor air with the indoor air before it goes into the office space. This is probably my favorite picture. This is the first floor paper vault. There are some dirty footprints on the floor now, but this is the finished space minus the base trim. So all of our materials that'll be housed from the archives will be in this space, and we do have a second floor that mirrors this, which is this space still under construction. They're putting the ceiling in now, which is the zero perm, and this floor will also have the epoxy floor, so they'll kind of mirror each other. It's a great space for anyone trying to house their collection. This is where you want it. So. This is first floor offices. Those are the fixed offices. You can still see the garage door kind of to the left there. That will be the vestibule. This is first floor going upstairs to the right corner. That is where the ADA access lift will be. That's going to probably be the last thing installed. That's mid-May, or I'm sorry, mid-June. After everything is done, we'll receive that and get that one installed. This is first floor. That's the open area where the cubicles will be for collections and bindery once all their tools and stuff are out of there. You can see why I didn't want carpet in here, right? Next. So this is the second floor open area. This will be for archive staff, and I think I have another picture where you can see the cabinets. Those are the fixed offices, so those ones are pretty much done. Doors are installed, and then the next one, I think that one. So this one shows that we've received the cabinetry for the kitchenette on the second floor, so that's being installed this week. And this is the entrance from the first floor into what will be the Friends Bookshop. And that is complete except for carpet. So that has the drop ceiling, all the new lighting in, the paint is done, and pretty much ready to go. And this is the same space looking out the other way. That's a huge space. This is the big walk-in cooler. What you're seeing in the white is the 2-inch foam panel you all approved for the resolution to build basically a cooler in a cooler. That is just a door you could drive a forklift into. Now it's a wall with the main door where you can actually just get people in. And I think I've got one on the inside as well. So now it's all completely new inside and ready to receive all the materials. So it's super exciting. We're really close. I'm hoping June 1st. I'm hoping. Any questions?
I'm excited to see this coming together. I've been able to be out at the space before we started the work, so being able to see how the pieces are coming together is exciting.
It's at the point now where so we're really talking about some of the finishes, and we had that carpet conversation last week, and O'Neill had said May 8th, and I kind of looked around and I went, there's no way. There's still so much just dirty work to do, and I don't want, it's like the furniture, I don't want to receive it until all of that's done to just have it covered in dust. So we're going to get that stuff done and then get on to finishes, but it's happening pretty quick. So yeah, we can, I think internally we've talked about possibly opening it up to some more staff tours after the windows and the vestibule go in. Be a nice time to see the space when you're seeing the light and when you're seeing what it actually looks like, because it's really close. So
Yeah, great.
All right, well, thank you all so much.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Len.
All right. Next up, we have the resolution to adopt the sustainability statement as policy. So we've been talking about this for a couple months now. I think first I read the resolution, get a motion, then we'll talk about it. So the board resolves, 1, that the draft of the sustainability statement be adopted as policy. 2, all resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. Can I get a motion to adopt the sustainability statement as policy?
So moved.
Second.
All right, discussion.
Should we read it?
Oh, yes, the actual policy statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can read it. The Ann Arbor District Library recognizes the impact of its operations on the environment and the challenges of adapting to a changing climate. AADL commits to careful consideration of the demands on the library system and current and future environmental impact of its decisions, including energy use, plastic waste, and facilities development and maintenance. AADL uses its resources and knowledge to decrease emissions, waste, pollution, and consumption while increasing reuse, resilience, and sharing in our community. AADL looks for and creates proactive opportunities to make progress towards a more sustainable library and a more sustainable community.
I think we've been talking about this for such a long time that this is finally something that we can formally put in place to help inform other decisions, as we've discussed. And so I'm very proud of this. I'm very excited about this. And I think, again, when I think about future considerations of our board and the next, this is going to be a fantastic North Star, particularly from a budgetary perspective as well.
Great.
Yeah, I'll say I see all of the conversation that we've had leading up to this point in here, so I feel pretty confident that we're there.
Great.
Yeah, I'm happy to get it in place.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Eli, for your work on the many revisions.
Thank you.
All right. So all those in favor of adopting the draft of the sustainability statement into policy, say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? All right. Motion passes. We have a sustainability statement. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. Okay, next up, we have some new business. Resolution to award contract for lawn maintenance and snow removal services for 3 years.
Hello again. We are at the end of our 3-year contract for lawn and snow. We solicited bids. We had it up, posted on our website, I believe, for 2 to 3 weeks, so it was posted publicly. We had 3 responses. We've had DJ Services, we had the Great Outdoors, and Macintosh, which is our current contractor. And do you want to hear the values, or do you have them in front of you?
I think
We have
them.
Okay, so DJ Services was low bid at $48,177 a year. The Great Outdoors was our middle bid of $67,388. Macintosh, our current vendor, was $73,492. These are all annual. I did have concerns about DJ Services being so low. Talked to their project manager, the person that actually bid the job, who, and if you don't remember, they were AM Services, and they have had this contract before. They assured me the number was their best number. The scope of work had changed, and they could perform the services at that number. So I like our current contractor. I think all of these would be good local companies to work with, but I can't help but to suggest we go with the low bid.
Yeah, how do you understand that big of a discrepancy?
So the scope has changed. When AM Services, so I pulled up their old contract, and their old contract is in line with these other 2 numbers. Mulch has been removed, which is now done by PlantWise, who does our landscape maintenance, and we've changed our herbicide and pesticide policy. You know, we don't apply pesticides at all. And we've removed the herbicide piece as well. So there's probably $6,000 a year there. So most of if you look at our sites, there's not a lot of turf grass anywhere. So the mowing portion of our contract is really small. Everything we do is mostly snow. So it's just, the scope had changed, and I asked all the tough questions about snow, and they remember me from my complaints from years before, and they assured me they understood what the expectations are, that we're 7 days a week, that we're not a bank and we're not a church, that we're here and everything needs to be cleared, and they said they understood the scope. So, I mean, it's a savings that I don't know that I'd be comfortable with just walking away from.
Yeah, and we have, go ahead.
Are any of these, do we know what kind of motors are running in these? Are these like gas or electric? Is there anybody going more towards the electric route that we might
People
want to know
are
about?
starting to trend towards the electric, yes, because that price is kind of balanced out. They're not all electric. Now, on the hand equipment side, most crews are going all electric on that. On the mower side, not so much. I think I talked to Weingarts because we bought that electric mower. The big purchases in our area were us and the U.
That tracks. I just thought.
But it's tracking, that's a good question, though. It is tracking the right direction, because I've talked to some people I know in the industry, and the price is kind of evened out to where that 60-inch commercial gas mower is in line with the electric, and people are starting to trust it. And we love ours. We're going on our 3rd year with our electric mower, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. So, but the hand tools, the trimmers, all that stuff, most everyone's gone to electric because
Okay.
they're more reliable.
Cool, thank you.
So with this contract, it's 3 years, right? And if they're not performing to our standards, we have outs, right?
There's a
It's not-
30-day out on both sides. We could give notice and remove them within 30 days, and they could do the same thing for us. They
Sure.
could, they could give us 30 days notice as well.
And with talking about scope, one thing I didn't think to ask about is like that includes Parkland Plaza now, which wasn't, or doesn't include that.
No,
We just take care of that?
Our plan the whole time has been to take care of Parkland Plaza ourselves. We
Okay, so
don't-
that makes sense that the scope shrank then.
Well, we didn't have that at that time either,
Yeah.
though, so it's just, that's a new property.
Right.
We've invested in all electric tools there, so we do the lawn and landscape. We will continue to do that, with the purchase of the pickup truck that you all approved in the fall. We serviced it all winter. It was a mild winter. I think we plowed the lot 4 times, and we probably serviced the sidewalk probably 7 times. But that alone, to outsource that, the way we did the year before was per event, and it was around $1,200 per event. So we had that savings this year by doing it in-house with our own equipment. So that's not included.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I hadn't thought to ask about that.
Yeah.
But that then all tracks. That's great.
And I had asked in the facilities committee meeting about labor, and so.
I have an answer for
I wanted
that.
to give you a chance to. Yeah.
So with DJs, and I didn't go through all of them, just
Yeah.
started here with DJs, their base pay is $18 to $25 an hour. For anything, if you get called in on snow, it's $24 an hour, minimum, so that's probably their sidewalk help. Their operators might get more than that. They have healthcare with, Flex Plan, they have a 401K with a 4% match. They do have profit sharing, vacation time, life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, and short-term, long-term disability.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, as Molly's noted, Len brought this information to Facilities Committee previously. I really appreciate the work of everyone to ask questions, to really kind of interrogate these bids and evaluate the best course of action. I think the recommendation Len has provided represents a pretty significant cost savings that's difficult to ignore given the library's values around stewardship of public funds. So based on the information we've heard, I would support voting in favor of that.
Great. All right. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I will read the resolution. The board resolves, 1, that the contract for lawn maintenance and snow removal services be awarded to DJ's Landscape Management from May 1, 2024, and ending April 30th, 2027, for the annual bid amount of $48,177. 2, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. I think I haven't gotten a motion yet, so can I get a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Great. All those in favor of awarding this bid, say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Thanks, everyone.
you all.
Thanks,
Len.
Len.
Thanks, Len.
All right, next up, we have the resolution to amend the 2023-2024 approved budget.
Okay, so this is on page 48 of your packet, and this is what we've been talking about in the finance reports all along, is that basically with there was a GASB change that had you start factoring your rent basically as debt service, because you have committed to a lease and it's looked as like offsetting debt. Even though we have no debt, it has to be booked as debt retirement. So in the process, we had an error in budget development that didn't capture both sides of that equation. And so all we need to do here is we have money in capital outlays from projects that mostly from stuff that we have not bought at the plaza yet, and other projects. We actually spent a lot less on some of the furniture than we were initially concerned we would need to. So this is just to transfer $400,000, and that still leaves a considerable amount in the capital outlays line for this year to cover it to building rent. And when we get to next year's budget here in just a few months, this problem has already been fixed in next year's budget. So this was just a one-time transfer to square this up as we're heading into the final quarter of the fiscal year to have this already squared away. Any questions about this?
Great. All right, so I'll read the resolution. The board resolves, 1, to transfer $400,000 from capital outlays to building rent. 2, that all resolutions and parts of resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Great. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? All right, motion passes. Thanks, Eli. Okay, next up, we have a resolution to authorize the director to sign the temporary construction and air rights easement agreement between the Ann Arbor District Library and Core Ann Arbor William LLC.
Okay, so you should all have a copy of this agreement. This is the same draft that you received over the weekend. And basically, this is a fairly standard easement and air rights agreement when you have a project next door. This is partially about them having the right to swing the crane over our property. It does not give them the right to swing live loads over our property, just that the crane, without carrying anything, can move back and forth across our space. But the big thing is the construction of a canopy over the east side of our parking lot that will both protect staff cars there, but also provide them with lay-down space when you need to lay out long pieces of material for the crane to pick up. So that is something that they need on a very tight site, and we reached an agreement as to how much that they would pay us for that over the course of the project, which is estimated basically 24 to 28 months, and they will be paying the library $80,000 for the right to use that space during the process of the project, which is about what it will cost us to replace the parking lot. So depending on how it looks when this project is done, they've given us enough money to completely replace the parking lot. Len got a quote for this pre-pandemic. It was back in 2019, because it needed it then. And not just the asphalt, but tearing up all the asphalt, tearing out the concrete beneath, and rebuilding the parking lot. Remained to be seen at the end of this project how it fares through the period, what else is going on, if we will do the work or not, but they will be paying us enough money to do the project if that's what we decide to do at the end of it. In addition, we have told them that this is a 7-day-a-week, 70 hours a week operation, and that we cannot lose any staff parking spots as a result of this. The canopy structure will remove some parking spots. So we told them any spots that we lose, they will have to provide us with parking spots in a nearby structure, probably Library Lane. We still have to talk with the DDA about that. But they will, however many spots, because we have not yet seen final drawings of the canopy structure, when we do, we'll know how many spots we're losing, and they will be providing us with that many spots in a nearby parking structure, so that no staff wind up having to pay for parking who wouldn't have if they weren't doing this project. So those were our main requirements, and we were able to negotiate both of those into this agreement. All has been reviewed by our council, has all the standard stuff in it with default and removal and all the sort of things in through there, and we are comfortable with this agreement. Any questions?
I had one. I know Len previously discussed potential implications for snow removal, and I think those have been resolved, but I don't remember if loading dock operations got brought up, and are there any anticipated effects on the loading dock operation?
No, because it doesn't really impact the loading dock. It will require a little bit more finesse from drivers who are attempting to turn around in our lot, right? But that's already a problem. So it's like this does not really expose any new risk because it does not actually impinge on the loading dock area.
Okay, thank you.
Len, anything you'd add?
I'd add, you know, here in a few months, a lot of our big deliveries will be at the warehouse.
Right.
Which will improve this for everyone.
I was just going to ask
fantastic.
that, yeah. So when is this happening?
They're pretty hot to trot on this. They're starting demolition, so we are expecting that the canopy will probably be built late May, early June. But like I said, we haven't seen the drawings of that yet.
All right, Len, June 1st.
Can I just ask, in terms of the employee parking, is there any way that you can kind of make sure that it's at the most adjacent spot? Like, because I know a lot of people would be like, oh, it's over on State Street. I'm thinking about like any way of
Yeah, I
accessibility
really only
to
see
these
two
things.
options here, is that it's either Library Lane Garage or it's 4th and William.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
And that's something that'll depend on availability, but I know the DDA will work with
Okay,
us on
wonderful. I just wanted to vouch for that.
that. Thank you for confirming.
I'll note that two of my concerns going into this were to make sure that the library was being, I don't know if it's the right word, but compensated appropriately for the scope of what was being requested, and I feel we've met that objective here. And my other concern was to mitigating against risk that if the project was delayed or went on indefinitely, that there would be language to account for the duration, which is covered here in section 5. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with where all of this landed.
Thanks to the Facilities Committee for the work that you did on this.
All right, I will read the resolution. The board resolves, 1, to authorize the director to sign the temporary construction and air rights agreement between the Ann Arbor District Library and Core Ann Arbor William LLC in regards to the demolition project at 333 East William Street. 2, all resolutions that conflict with the provisions of this resolution are rescinded. All right, can I get a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed? Okay. Next up, we have discussion of the proposed 2024-2025 budget.
Okay, so the very last page of your packet, page 50, is our draft budget proposal for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. So I just want to touch on a couple highlights here and things to know about this. Timing-wise, we will bring a final budget back to the board at the May meeting for final approval. We will set the millage rate at that point as well, because between now and then, we will have received the final equalization report from the county. We'll know what the Headley rollback is, depending on what that comes in at, so we'll be able to approve the final millage rate based on all of that. So, looking at the very top line, the tax collections, this assumes a 4% increase for our tax collection revenue for the next year. That's a little conservative, so we expect it'll probably come in a little bit higher than that, but we'll see when the equalization report is completed. The other thing to note is that the really other major change here is the change to grants and memorials. The far right column shows last year's budget versus this proposed budget. And that's just because of us moving the Friends into a fund and away from a budgeted amount. So that's that $35,000 that you see in parentheses in grants and memorials. But that gives us a total increase of $818,000 on the revenue side over this year's budget. Moving on to expenditures, salaries and wages, our total personnel cost is actually an increase of $1.3 million over the current year. It's a little short of 10%. There's two major factors in. There are 6 new full-time positions in this budget. So that's a big part of this. And that also includes a significant increase in part-time hours, particularly on the production team. Our production team is very much the same size that it was kind of heading into the pandemic, and we're doing about 3 times as many events now. So we did, the supervisor of that team did an analysis and made a very convincing case that we need a lot more personnel in that to be able not just to keep up with our events, but with all the other production demands upon the production department, such as podcasts and interviews and things like that, that we don't want to get sidelined just because of the ongoing daily work, like what they're doing in the booth right now. So that's a big change. Now you can see building rental is increased by $245,500. That's increased versus the pre-corrected budget, so prior to what you just did. Right, so it's actually less than this year's budget because in the next year, we will be ending the lease for the current archive space. We also are, as of June 30th, no longer paying back Westgate Enterprises for the build-out costs of Westgate, which were amortized for us at 0% rate over the first 8 years of the lease. Just as a reminder, we are ending the first 8 years of the Westgate and entering the first of 2 5-year extensions. Similarly, Sweetwater's is ending their first sublease and will be entering into 2 5-year extensions as well. That process is ongoing. So the building rental is more than what the budget was before, but less than what the budget is now. Okay? Things move pretty quick. Materials, well, library program, you can see considerable increase here. We're just doing a lot more of it. We're doing more big things. So there's a considerable increase in that line item over what we had approved for this year. Similarly, an increase in the materials budget. The manager of the materials collection, the collection budget, said that she needed more money, so there's more money there. Now, you do see a decrease here in minor equipment purchases. That's because a lot more of this stuff is now major equipment. So it's mostly a shift between that and capital outlays. And then the one other change here, you do see in this version of the budget, a capital outlays line of $450,000. Currently in this year's, that was $1.9 million, but that was with a lot of expected expenditures from the plaza that we haven't turned out to need to do. And that was before we took $400,000 out of it and put that into rent. I think we might tweak this a little bit more once we know what the actual numbers are. The one other thing that's in here that I wanted to mention is our insurance renewal. So we did get our medical renewal. Our medical insurance rates are going up 6.7%. And basically, we're going to increase our contribution 6.7%, and the employees are going to increase their out-of-pocket contribution out of their paycheck 6.7%. What that means is that for a single, their out-of-pocket per month deduction from their pay stub. This is currently $6.09 a month for single coverage. That will be going to $6.50 a month. Double coverage is $14.65 a month. That will be going to $15.63 a month. And family coverage will be going from $18.31 a month to $19.54 a month. So even though that is a 6.7% increase, it's still pretty much unheard of in the United States to be paying this amount of money for this level of coverage. So we're happy to be able to continue that plan, and that's the major impact out of that. Any questions on the draft budget?
I have one. I remember from past years that we actually made a reduction in materials budget because we were finding that we were spending less, I guess, on things like DVDs. And so it sounds like that was a temporary reduction, and now we're bringing it back up again. And I'm curious about.
Well, it's more that it's growing in different directions. We want to add more to the licensing budget. There are more products that we are interested in licensing. And also, we're spending more in production that comes out of the collection budget. All the Fifth Avenue Press production stuff comes out of there. That's really growing, and we're finding ourselves wanting to invest more in those projects. So that's part of that as well. So that's, it's continuing for there to be less disc-based movies available for us to purchase. There's still a lot of Blu-rays being produced, but DVD is drying up pretty quickly. A big change is that BOCD is dying really hard and fast. So there's a lot of change in that. There's a lot fewer things being produced. We're buying as many of it as we can. So those things are changing. And of course also CDs. Like the CDs are falling off a cliff in many ways, as you can imagine. So there is a lot of format change represented here, and us wanting to spend more money on licensing is really where that comes from.
Great. Well, as a heavy Libby user, I have no problem with that. I was just curious about what the trend was.
Sure.
I know it's a small line item, but can you talk about other operating expenditures?
Yeah, so, that's just kind of like it's like a catch-all potpourri line for a bunch of things that don't fit in other places. For example, let's see, travel's not in there. There's little things like we got operating supplies in the prior line. This is like, man, I'm struggling to think of what is even in there. I think it's like little things that don't fit in any other particular category. Like, for example, some of the costs associated with subscriptions that are not the subscription itself, like maintenance costs and things like that. I'll bring better detail about that for the next meeting.
Again, it's a small line item, but it was a relatively significant increase from one year to the next. So I'm just curious about it, but.
And I think a lot of that, again, is like us moving things out of minor equipment purchases.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, and especially if it's associated with like subscriptions, then that, right. And if subscriptions are increasing, then that would increase that.
It'd be more like software subscriptions than like subscriptions that would be in the collection. But let me bring you better detail for that for the next time we meet.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Were there any areas of the budget that you found yourself wishing you had more budget for, or places where the math felt, trickier than you would have liked?
Not really. We're in a pretty strong position here. There were we wanted to add more to the collections budget, so we were able to. It's hard to predict what capital projects you want to do, and those can add up really quickly. Something big goes wrong, that's one $400,000 project right there. So it's like, but to a certain extent, that's some stuff that we would probably deal with out of the undesignated fund balance or the capital fund instead. There weren't really a lot of pain points here, mostly because we're still in a rising tide sort of situation in regards to our revenue. And I think that there's, all the managers put in what they wanted, and really everybody got what they wanted. So there was very few places where we kind of really had to make tough decisions with this. So we're fortunate to be in that position.
Okay, great.
Okay, any other questions? This is not an item of action. We'll bring you a final budget at the May meeting for the annual budget hearing, as well as the authorization of the millage rate for next year, so we can get that to the township treasurers, and they can collect it.
Great. All right, thanks, Eli. Are there any more citizens' comments or any citizens' comments? Okay, thank you. Then I will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thanks, everyone.